I read a popular financial advisor book recently, and it outlined the ideal first meeting agenda for financial advisors. But after conducting hundreds of first meetings over the last few years, and really over the past decade and a half, and running many different tests and continuing to get just 1% better, there's some big flaws to this agenda when I read it. And I just want to, I'll share the agenda and then I'll share what we do differently and how it's a little bit, why it makes sense in terms of the psychological factor as you're trying to connect with people, as you're trying to build rapport and build trust with people. So, number one, let me pull it up. This is the author's identification of what's most important. So, here's the agenda: get to know each other, and then go to an introduction of my firm, of course, misspelling, and then an overview of my philosophy, my planning strategy, my process. And then we get to what's most important to you, and then back to my value added service, and then see if there is a fit. Well, what's the problem here? Well, it is thorough, but it misses the mark because prospects, they don't care about your firm yet. They don't actually care about you yet. They care about the problems that they have, the pain that they have, and they just want to know, have you helped someone like them? And they want to know whether or not you can help them, right? So our goal as advisors is we've got to build rapport first, and we got to build it fast. So to do that, they need to feel heard and they need to feel understood. Then, once the connection is made, they're going to be more interested in learning about our firm and our process and all the next steps. But there's a first step we got to get right. So that, when you think about those common sayings, and maybe it's a little cliche, but that idea of seek first to understand. And then also that one about they don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care. Again, cliche, but it's really important. I actually got pitched a couple weeks ago, and I had two consulting firms pitch me. One followed the first structure I showed you, and it was a total turnoff. It didn't take long to realize 2 minutes that he was just talking about himself and the firm and why the consultants were so good and all the stuff that they did. And it took about 5 to 7 minutes. And finally, after all the great things he did and all the stuff the firm did and why they were the best, then he started to ask about me. But here's the better agenda. And we've tested this a bunch. And the things over the last 4 years, we found this agenda does work the best. Number one is find out what's most important to them and do that first. Start with the same open-ended question. What's on your mind? And then dive deeper into the questions and answers and all the goals and concerns after that. Use their words to really mirror and then repeat what they said back to them. And this shows you're actively listening. It shows that you genuinely care because you do. And then a big, big piece here is they'll give an initial answer to whatever you ask. And then you got to dive a little bit deeper with curiosity questions. And I'll give you examples of curiosity questions. So number one, find out what's most important to them. What's on your mind. Then get into the tangible goals. Then get into the specifics of the financials. And then you can talk about your firm and why you're good at what you do. Then end with a values question and offer. So here's a couple examples. So a client or prospect came in and said, or called up and said, I believe I'm doing everything right. I'm just getting the ducks in a row, but I just want to ensure I'm not making any mistakes. Then rather than say, oh, okay, all right, and then ask the next question, say, oh, can you tell me a little bit more about the mistakes that come to mind as you're thinking about retirement? That's a big question. It's a little bit deeper, right? Or another example, prospect said, my wife and I were getting close to retirement and I'm talking to different firms. I really just want to know what your process is and what your fees are. And then rather than answering what the process is and what the fees are, you can say, oh, that's exciting about retirement. What do you think you're going to do in retirement that you can't do now? Interesting question. They'll talk about something completely different. Or you could say, oh, you mentioned your wife. Tell me a little bit more about your family. Now, this may seem odd to ignore the answering the initial question, But once they see that you're genuinely interested in them and you care about them, it's not going to feel awkward at all. And really, for even more follow-up questions, look at the membership below. There's a guide to everything that we do here with these types of questions and how to connect. So thinking back to finding out what's most important to them and then goals. So you know how to do this. You know how to get their goals and financial things. And then number three, get the specifics on the financials. That's not too hard to do because you built the rapport and they're comfortable with you and now they'll share all of the financial info. And then number four, you could talk about your firm and your credibility. That's the first time you're going to talk about yourself. And after understanding all their needs, tailor the firm's what you do and the details to their specific situation. That's a hack, I guess you could say. Share the success stories of clients that are just like them, right? And then explain how your services meet the goals that they want to meet. That's so valuable. And then ask the values question. There's different ways to do this. A good one I like is Bill Bacharach's question. You know, can I? You could say, can I? Thanks so much for sharing all the things, and this is really going to be helpful for you this next meeting. Before we go, can I ask you a different kind of question? And they'll say, yeah, sure. Well, what's most important about money to you? Or you can say, what do you think is the most important thing in your life right now? It's a little deep, but the tonality matters. A client that is very well off sold his business. At the end of it, he's like, "Wow, I I feel like you guys know me better than I know myself." After asking those questions and just being curious. And then finally, we're going to wrap up and then make the offer. We reiterate what's most important to them and how you can help them, and then make the offer for the next steps, the next meeting, or building the plan, or working together. That's the process. That's what works really well for us. And then the next step for you is start testing this out in your own meetings and just gauge people's responses. If you're looking for more, I scripted out the whole process. The first and second meeting, it's in the advisor value formula. That's available within the membership. But start practicing these. Start going back over this video, get the questions, start being curious, and you'll be amazed at the result. And if you're not a subscriber yet, subscribe. I've got more videos trying to get once per week out. And by the way, if I haven't met you yet, I'm Dave Zoller and I own Streamline Financial with Tim. And we've created this to help. Really, this is the channel I wanted probably 15 years ago when I started. So that's the purpose of this. Hope it's helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.